Hello and welcome. Today I'm going to talk about the echo chamber, one of the many things we've talked about throughout this semester, and definitely one of the more important things that we have covered here in this class. So, what exactly is an echo chamber? It's really first of all, an echo chamber itself is referring to, it's a metaphor. The actual term echo chamber is referring to something used in TV and radio when it comes to creating sound. It's this big room where the sound waves just bounce off of it. It just causes this echo or whatnot. So that's essentially where the name comes from. It's a situation where a set of beliefs are shared. They're also reinforced by those who are in this metaphorical chamber. So everyone who's in here kind of has similar opinions, and these beliefs end up being reinforced because more and more people have those similar opinions and they all agree with it, that kind of stuff. When these beliefs are challenged by others, the opposing views are immediately discredited. This can take place, as I'll talk about a little bit more, even with there's just no evidence to dispute those claims. They'll just, mob mentality. A lot of people will say, hey, we all agree with one thing and you disagree with something else. Because of that, you're wrong because you're not in the majority. This can lead to misinformation if only one side of the story is being represented. So if all these people agree and they're all on the same page, well, how are you going to know what the other side says? And if there is potentially any information that might dispute what you're believing and may poke holes in the argument that you got, that this group has, saying that they all share this same belief. So where can you find these echo chambers? Well, with the rise of social media in the 21st century, these online communities have been formed across several platforms. You got Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, all these places that have these growing and growing communities with people that tend to find themselves agreeing with a lot of the things that they say, because these sites allow users with common ideas to have a platform where they can discuss these ideas together. So if they're able to talk to each other about these ideas, they'll reinforce these ideas and be, have them stronger than ever through confirmation bias, which I'll also touch upon a little bit later. Confirmation bias is a key proponent of these echo chambers and why these are in place and why these form. Additionally, algorithms that log what you search for on the internet, they can lead you to sites and information that cater to your personal interests, which will lead to essentially people who have that like-minded opinion of you. Let's say, for example, that you find a video on a political candidate that you enjoy. If you click on that video, watch it, then you'll probably get recommended something else later, and they'll bring you to other videos, say if it's on YouTube, for example, and then you'll see these comment sections, a lot of people that have similar opinions with you. That's where you get these opportunities to find more and more people that agree with you and not hear the other side of the story or the other side of the aisle, whatever you want to say. And this concept here of these algorithms that log what you search and lead you to these specific interests, they're what's known as a filter bubble. And that's these two go hand in hand with echo chambers. The filter bubble is something that is a main reason why these echo chambers do exist. The common characteristics of an echo chamber, one being that only one perspective seems to be represented in the conversation. You won't see a lot of people that disagree. A lot of people will be on the same page saying, oh, I agree in this regard. I think, for example, in some cases, there are a lot of people that say the protests following George Floyd were in fact riots. A lot of people will be on the same page and say, oh, I think those are riots. They're all, everything's burning. All we're seeing on TV is, the city burning, where in fact someone might, in a normal setting, someone might say, hey, there's peaceful protests going on all across the country. So don't assume just because you saw one store being looted means that the whole protests are non-peaceful. But sometimes there isn't that situation, or that idea gets ignored, which brings up the next point, that facts are presented by others whose opinions facts that are presented by others whose opinions differ are being ignored. So some people will just not regard what someone's saying. Oh, I don't agree with you. Well, I don't care. I don't want to even entertain the idea that you have something that doesn't share the view. It's, you are outside of the chamber, so you don't fit that idea. And in this image right here, You see friends who don't share your worldview and news outlets conflicting with your worldview. They don't make it inside the chamber, so you don't know that they're there, or you are, disillusioned from knowing exactly, or from these conflicting viewpoints. There's also a lack of supporting evidence for claims being made. That's a common thing in these echo chambers. A lot of people will say stuff, their opinions on stuff, but they won't use evidence to back up their claims. So they end up speculating a lot, and this speculation doesn't really. It might get more people to be on the same page as you, but you not having evidence, it won't put you in a position to support your claim, and there won't be, it makes it that much easier for more people to just agree in that regard. But if there's disputing evidence going in, then more people will be like, oh, because the evidence says that that's not true, then that's not true. And that's where more and more misinformation can be circulated in this echo chamber. An example is of this of the echo chamber that I wrote about in our second, I believe it was our second virtual field trip, was this Bubba Wallace noose incident and what took place in the NASCAR subreddit. So June 21st, 2020, there was a noose found in NASCAR driver Bubba Wallace's garage at Talladega Superspeedway. Wallace is the only African-American driver in the Cup Series, so it's just him right now. This r/NASCAR, the Reddit community that focused on the sport, was very outspoken in its support for Wallace, which it was really cool to see all these people rally around. However, some individuals in the subreddit also wanted to wait for an investigation to conclude before searching for whoever's responsible or taking any course of action. But these people were immediately chastised as insensitive, saying that they weren't, being respectful in this scenario, that it's important for them to get to the bottom of this, which I'm sure both sides agree upon, but it's important for them to get to the bottom of this before any rash judgments are made or any decisions are made that could impact others that are involved. For example, there's been plenty of times where the wrong person has been convicted. Richard Jewell in the 1996 Atlanta Olympic bombings, he was in fact a hero. People realized because he was close to the scene that he could have been a suspect. Then he was basically portrayed in the media as being the perpetrator before his name was eventually cleared. The damage has already been done. So that's why it's dangerous for people to not wait for an investigation to conclude before searching for who is responsible. And in this situation, it was, well-intentioned for people wanting to stick up for Bubba and protect him, especially from an egregious hate crime. But in the end, the investigation was concluded, and local police determined that the noose had been in the garage for over a year, and it wasn't. There was no evidence that it was directly attacked or a direct attack on Bubba Wallace. So in the end, it was a terrible coincidence that noose was in his garage after being there for over a year, and despite that, it shows that no one was truly responsible for performing a hate crime on Bubba. It was a relief that he wasn't being targeted, but at the same time, it shows how important it is to understand opposing viewpoints instead of discrediting them. Echo, I think that's how you pronounce it, is another thing that I went into detail on during one of the field trips. It was an analytical tool that is used to visualize political bias based on liked pages through Facebook. So Facebook, you can look at all these people that have certain likes that you're friends with and how it portrays to your political spectrum on your feed. I use this tool to analyze my Facebook feed, and I learned that about 75% or 3 out of every 4 of my Facebook friends are left-leaning based on their likes. Because I don't use Facebook religiously, I didn't really pick up on the fact that my feed was significantly more liberal than conservative. I did see my fair share of conservative posts here and there, but turns out a lot more of the posts that I see or shares that I see turn out to be left-leaning. So Politico helped me realize that I'm kind of in this echo chamber right now that only focuses on liberal perspectives. You don't see a whole lot of conservative stuff, so I don't get the opportunity to see some of the more right-leaning, things. I consider myself slightly left-leaning, but in the end, in this situation, it proves that, hey, most of the stuff you see is really left-leaning. So I'm just being slightly left-leaning doesn't mean that I'm, or just because I'm close to the middle doesn't mean I'm not exempt from being sucked into this echo chamber. Why is this concept of echo chamber important? Echo chambers can actually hinder the productive discourse between online social media users, because common ground can't be found if you don't want to have those discussions to begin with, because you have differing opinions. So that's one way where people can't find that common ground and find something that they agree on. And then if they don't want to have those conversations, it can further the divide on both sides in that second bullet point. So more people won't want to have that conversation, and they'll grow further apart and not be able to find that common ground, and it becomes a lot more polarizing. Confirmation bias, as I mentioned earlier, plays a significant role in forming these echo chambers, because people come in to these echo chambers, they have their opinions, they go into the echo chamber, they realize a lot more people are saying the same stuff that they do, so they confirm it based on their beliefs that, oh, because a lot more people are saying it, that's the case. So people who find themselves in the middle end up feeling torn. That's the last point I want to make. People in the middle might feel torn because they feel the pressure from their chambermates, despite the fact they don't actually agree with them. So they start to question their own beliefs, and based on, pressure, they get this cognitive dissonance where there's a conflicting, there's the norm from these people and then the actual belief. But because they have that action, because the peer pressure from the crowd, they might want to change their beliefs and say, you know what, I guess because I'm the minority, I'm not right. And that's something that can take place, and it's can be dangerous when it comes to misinformation, because people who actually are providing the right information are being drowned out by the crowd. So that pretty much covers it. Echo chamber, again, one of the more important things that we talked about throughout the semester, and something that can apply to basically everyone that is a user on social media. So thank you for watching, and enjoy your break.